Hey everybody, it's me, DeogenZ, here with another edition of Pokémon of the Week. This week we've got a wall. It's one that can stall, and it's also one that can attack, so it's a pretty interesting one on your pack. It's Bronzong. And the benefits to having it as a wall is that it can set up dual screens for you. It fills that niche which not every Pokemon can, so it's something to consider if you want some support for your team, if you feel it's lacking in defense, and maybe some sweepers that you have that you want to set up need a little bit of backing. Now, some other options you can do with this wall is do a little bit of a wall and a stall, attach leftovers to the set, split the defensive EVs out evenly, and then add Toxic. Have Gyro Ball, of course, because another niche that this one fills is the low speed niche. That's right, you wouldn't think that low speed would be beneficial in any way, ever, except when it comes to Bronzong, because Gyro Ball works on that mechanic. The slower the Pokemon using it, the better, the more burlier the attack will become. So it's a good offensive move to prevent any sort of taunt stall. Some other supporting options that you can have with this wall is Hypnosis and Trick Room. Now, instead of setting up screens to give your entire team a defensive upgrade, maybe you have an entire team of Slowpoke. Well, not literally, that wouldn't be very practical, but say you had very, very low speed stats Pokemon, and you wanted to give them a boost, you wanted to change the game, if you will, well, Trick Room would do it. And putting a poke into Hypnosis, done successfully, given its low accuracy, please consider, it can set up your slow, lumbering team superbly. It will allow a free hit and free switch on whatever you choose to bring out on the field. And the good thing is, Bronzong plays at high-level games. I'm talking top tier. It's even known to be seen in Uber games. So if you're looking to, I don't know, make that Regigigas a bit more useful that you got from the True event, well, there's many ways you could have a Regigigas, but that's how I have mine, then this would be a method of doing that. So it's something to consider, and based on your team, whether it needs a bit more of a defensive boost and an assist from Bronzong's toxicity in Gyro Ball, or if you could just benefit from having your entire team be the top speeds by having no speed at all. It's kind of a really cool warping of dimensions and a fun way to win, but also keep in mind that it will only last for 5 turns. So make sure you have the countdown correctly, and that Bronzong isn't going to switch in on something like one of its weaknesses, which is why I split its defensive effort values evenly, just in case you gotta worry about Shadow Balls or anything of that sort. There's a lot of variance you could have in its super effective hitting moves against it, so you want to be prepared for anything. Thus is why we have the maximum of health. Now let's go on to a viewer-submitted set. This set comes in from Twitter, actually, which is a marvelous idea considering how horrible the YouTube inbox and comments section is set up these days. It's from Kenny Zada, or to be more specifically, Kenny Zada's friend, and it's the Atomisk Attacker set. And this one really intrigued me. I like the idea here. It's going based on whether or not Bronzong is hit with a super effective move. I believe that's what weakness policy does. And if so, if it's struck with such a move, it will have its attack and special attack sharply increased. Then with that, Trick Room is set up. So I'm guessing what he's going for here is that maybe Bronzong is facing a poke that it's obviously not going to outspeed. And it needs to set up Trick Room, but it also may be hit by it super effectively. So with maxing out its hit points so that it can uptake the most damage from that poke, then using Trick Room so that Bronzong goes first, it will have a sharp increase to its attack and special attack. Of course, you're only focusing on physical attack here, with a setup of Zen Headbutt, Rock Slide, and Gyro Ball all being physical. But one thing that concerns me, and I would love to see this set up in the Battle Institute in Pokemon X and Y to see if it would really run through the rigorous tests of fireproofing this thing. That's another ability that Bronzong has, but it's rarely ever seen in metagame because you really can't turn your nose up on levitation. I mean, it's such a great switch-in, and it allows you to really use a free switch-in where Flameproof only makes fire moves 50% less effective, and that's only focusing on one type of damage, and yeah, maybe Levitation focuses on one type of damage, but it's one type, Earthquake, that's way more common in metagame than, say, Flamethrower on absolutely everything. It's just harder to get in everybody's move pool, where Earthquake is more readily accessible. Hell, even this Bronzong can use Earthquake, and it was one of my recommendations, I would say, for additional moves, although I didn't put it because there was no additional recommended by the original source, so I didn't want to tamper with it. Now, my concerns are, again, with the fire, because there's no investment in special defense or physical defense, and with fire-type moves, it's mainly the special you have to worry about, those hard-hitting fire blasts coming from heat rans and things of that nature, especially if you're taking this thing into Uber tier. So, would love to see a couple of tests with this. I like the premise, but I would wonder if there's another item you could attach to this and keep the same sort of setup and have a similar kind of effect. I don't know if there's an opposite of a weakness policy where if Bronzong's hit with a move that it resists, the same sort of thing happens. I highly doubt that. The way that these items work, and I like some of the new X and Y items, I like the Absorb Bulb and the Cell Battery, it's really cool stuff to be playing around with. But the way that a lot of these work is that it balances out. It's not going to give you ultimate power, just like a Mega Stone isn't going to give you ultimate power on every single stat. Sometimes you get an ability that's not really advantageous, like Gengar losing Levitation. That sucks. Or, Heracross getting out of Moxie. So these are all things to consider, but weakness policy is a good way to go, considering that it can take the brunt force of a Fire Blast. Hopefully it won't have to actually go against that, but who knows, we'll see if it lasts. And this next set, at least the title is, inspired by my man MF Doom. If you know who I'm talking about, then you realize the title and what tune I refer to. Bells to Bombs, in this case, means the explosion out for this Bronzong. That's right, it's the last niche that I wanted to bring up that it fills. Aside from being a slowpoke, not literally, people, possessing Trick Room, having Gyro Ball, all these things, it also can last-ditch effort explodify all over your opponent's face. And for that, you want to max out its physical attack, since Explosion is a physical effort. It's not special. Nobody considers Sacrifice special, I guess. But it's very valuable if it's only here as kind of a decoy. Something to use Trick Room, do what I suggested earlier in this video, and set up some of your slower teammates by using Trick Room, perhaps only once. Maybe you only have that one Regigigas, and your entire team after that possesses a lot more speed and won't benefit from Trick Room. So of course you're going to want it to deteriorate, and then it won't matter if Bronzong stays alive. So Explosion is an actual viable strategy. I tend not to use Explosion, but since Bronzong can do it, I really just wanted to bring it up. And that about covers it for Pokemon of the Week. Let me know below if you've battled with a Bronzong before. I personally have not, although I'm looking forward to trying it. I just have to rearrange what attacks are on my current Bronzong and take it to the Battle Institute. But before I go, I just want to mention that next week will be the final 100th episode of Pokemon of the Week that I'm going to be doing. I don't know if they're going to choose to continue on this series with a new host. Maybe they will. Who knows? That's up to Pokemon. Or, it's up to Pokemon. It's up to Planet Poke. But I will be continuing my own sort of effort value expertise guide on my channel with a series called Pokemon Potential. And on that series, I will be giving away shinies, more information on my channel about that. But I like this whole Twitter submission idea. It's pretty easy for me to see it. It comes up in my feed, and it's like a direct comment section just to me, not to any one video, so, I don't have to keep checking back to, like, multiple channels, and that would be most effective, just put it in a couple of characters, nature, speed, attack, do it in a couple of tweets, and you're good. So my Twitter handle is pretty simple. It's my name at DeogenZ. And I will see you next week for the final edition of Pokemon of the Week. Guess who it's gonna be? Welcome back to Effort Value Expertise, the Heart Gold, Soul Silver Effort Value Training Series put on by me, DeogenZ. And today, what we are focusing on is physical attack. So, you want yourself an offensive sweeper, you say. Well, make sure that you have Pokerus